Hi there. Welcome to The Preventable, the podcast giving you a seat at the table with conversations about the intersection of alcohol, drugs, and mental health in everyday lives. Take a seat and join us.
Welcome to The Preventable. With me today, I have brand journalist. If you don't know what that means, you'll find out in a minute. Mom of four and nonprofit founder, Kristin Tippit. Welcome to The Preventable.
Hello, thank you.
Thanks so much for being here today. We were actually introduced by a mutual friend, Maggie.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And she emailed me and she said, you have to meet Kristin. Your paths are so similar and you have a lot of similar interests, which we just found out in the pre-room. We have similar taste in music too, but you are like in this field and you are just making your mark. That's what I would like to say.
Yeah.
So what the heck is a brand journalist?
Yeah. So similar to someone doing social media, content strategy, copywriting. I mean, it's kind of a combination of all of those things, but the main idea is that you're really trying to get to the question words when you're talking to a company or even a person about their personal brand, the why, the what, the how, and kind of really getting them to understand their narrative and what they're about and the impact they want to make and kind of just, you know, how they want to come across to the world.
So I'd imagine if you, and this is interesting to me because in 2020, the organization went through a major rebrand, right? And part of what the firm that we used asked us is, you know, what's our brand promise? What do we want to be known for? And they also encouraged me as a leader to think about what my brand promise is. And at first I was like, what does that have to do with anything, right? Because theoretically you should take me out of it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have anything to do with me, especially if we want to continue. But they pushed back and they said, well, it has a lot to do with you because those become qualities that your employees and your staff and your volunteers and your board like come to think of.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So I would imagine that you had to think through your own sort of brand promise before you can really help anybody else figure out what theirs is.
Yes. And I do think that in terms of companies and organizations, the folks who are working within them are really what start to make up that brand too. So you'll see, especially when you're looking at kind of engaging online, because you'll see someone and they're telling great stories and they have a lot of great things to say and they're showing up authentically. And then you think, well, where do they work? What are they about? And then you see that they work at whatever place. And all of a sudden you start to see these people and they all are kind of from the same place. And you think, wow, that company must be amazing because it's made up of all these people and these people are really showing up authentically online. And that's where I think it's so important is it's this like, who are you and how are you going to show up to people? And I do think that makes a difference for where you work as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's not, I think from an outside perspective, it can make people go, ooh, that's a little groupthinky, right? That like everybody is kind of like interested in the same values and holds the same things dear, but it also speaks to alignment. And so I'm interested in where alignment comes in versus, oh, we're all sort of drinking the kool-aid.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I think that it kind of just is that way. Like if you are aligned with where you work and the culture of your company and sort of everyone understands that and is like aligned with that, then it's going to come out that way. And it's not that everyone's saying all of the same things necessarily.
Correct, right.
It's more about how are you showing up online? How are you showing up to the people around you? Are you talking about your personal life? Because there's a big thing here where people are like professional versus personal, and there's a big, you know, you're supposed to separate them and you can't bring one to the other. And I totally disagree. I totally disagree because you don't go anywhere without the other, really. I mean, the things that you do at work are hopefully things that you're passionate about and that you want to give to the world. And that is not separate from who you are at home or in other parts of your life. I think it's all one thing.
That's been an evolution for us at Prevent+Ed because I would say when I first started, so I've been with the organization for 14 years. And when I first started in 2008, it was like, it's not about us, right? And so we need to make sure that when we enter a classroom or when we're working with a client that we're a real human being, but that we don't have pictures of our family in our office, or that we don't, we might not be wearing like a cross or a, Star of David or something like that. And then, so it was really like, it's the message, not the messenger.
Mm-hmm.
And then since I've been here, it's almost like done like a complete 180, right?
Mm-hmm.
That people need to know that they're dealing with a real live human being
Mm-hmm.
who has a kid crying in the background, or has to leave to take their dog to the vet,
Mm-hmm.
or, is just having a really crappy day,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so we've evolved from talking about a balance to more of just like a juggle.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and people want to relate to others.
Yeah.
So, I mean, a lot of the things I write about on my personal blog or help, companies or people talk about is what things have you gone through, because people are going to relate to those things.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how you really build meaningful connections, which lead to more positive outcomes just in everything you do, whether that's your work or your life. I mean, you're just going to feel, when you feel more connected to others and you build these relationships, it only creates like a positive effect. And so I think that's where, this is so very important.
So you started your own nonprofit because you felt passionate and compelled, and people followed you and believed in that cause because you showed up in an authentic way. So talk a little bit about that nonprofit and kind of where it is and where you hope to lead it someday.
Yeah. So let's see. My partner and I had a baby in May of 2020. So right after the pandemic started. And I was like, great, we're going to be in and out of the hospital. This is my 4th time. Like, I know what we're doing. And instead, he had low blood sugar. He ended up needing an IV, which led to a staph infection, which led to IV antibiotics, which led to like 22 days in the NICU. And that whole experience, especially during a pandemic, was extremely overwhelming, unpredictable. It was just so hard. And when we came out of that experience, my partner and I, we both have backgrounds in nonprofit. I've worked primarily my whole career in nonprofit, like program management and oversight. And then my partner has a master's in nonprofit management. And so we thought, what are we going to do with all this energy we have? Because it's a lot to process. It's a lot of feelings. We were kind of angry about what happened. We were kind of confused. We were sad.
Again, and it's merging like your professional competencies with also like what's going on in real life.
And I think a lot of, nonprofits are started for this very reason.
1,000,000%.
Right. That's somebody has something that they go through. They want to help others either not go through it or find better ways to go through it. And that's kind of what happened with us, is we thought, we felt alone. We feel like there could be more done in the area of education for parents going through this experience, and teaching them that it's okay to advocate for their baby, to stand up, to create good relationships with their medical team. So that's why we created Logic Baby. And Logic it's an acronym with all of the first letters of our kids' names. So that's why it's called Logic. It doesn't really make a lot of sense otherwise. But we have a Louise, an Otter, a George, and a Charlotte. So it's
cute.
A little I. So, so we created Logic Baby. And really we just wanted to, create some video content, some engagement that parents could use to like just learn about the NICU, learn about how to sort of survive that space and connect with other people. And so we have a bunch of videos on YouTube. We started a sort of coaching program that didn't work super well because of the platform that we were using.
Yeah.
But, in the future, I think I'd like to do a class. There's a ton about labor and delivery. There's newborn sort of classes that the hospitals offer. And nothing to prepare you for the NICU. And I mean, about 20% of babies end up needing a stay in the NICU.
I'm just thinking about our staff, and I can think off the top of my head 4 of our staff who either their kiddos or their grandkiddos have been in the NICU. And that, to your point, that is an experience that no one prepares you for.
Mm-mm.
And the NICU staff and nurses are incredible.
Absolutely.
I mean, you think you have to have major chops to be a kindergarten teacher. You also have to have major chops to be a NICU nurse.
Yeah.
And but sometimes you're settling in for the long haul, right? And
I mean, everyone's experience is different. There are some things like for premature babies that are kind of similar.
Sure. But
it is a situation where most people don't know they're going, and if they do know they're going, they don't have a ton of time before they end up going there. But even in that case, there should be more education around that experience, just to give your mind a little bit of something to grab onto to kind of make sense of what it's going to be like to like live your life in the ICU, which is essentially what you're doing.
Wow. Well, I think that's really incredible. And, all of these things that we've been talking about, you being a brand journalist, you founding a nonprofit, you being a mom of 4 with really cute names.
Thanks.
That is a lot about you. And yet there's something else about you that like, I'm not leading with on purpose, because it's a part of your life, but it doesn't define you. And that would be that you consider yourself sober.
Mm-hmm.
So talk to me a little bit about sort of how you identify. And I think it's important because there's a lot of different paths, right? Mm-hmm. To choosing not to have alcohol in your life or choosing not to put substances in your body. And language matters. Words matter. You're a journalist. You understand that this matters. So how do you identify, and what differentiates that for you?
Yeah. So I think the first time I got sober, and that's really the terminology I used, is when I was 2010. It was about 5.5 years, and I was in AA, and I did the meetings, and I had a sponsor, and I sponsored folks, and there was a lot of that experience that I really thought was good and helpful. But ultimately, I decided to try it again, and went out and continued to drink, and kind of then got to another place where I realized this just isn't fitting into my life anymore. It's not something that brings me joy. It doesn't help me. I'm really using alcohol. For me, it was alcohol as a medication. And I would like to find other ways that feel better for my body and my soul and my mind to do that. And so I don't know, sober is fine. Alcohol free is another one that people use. So, I think I'm not a part of the AA community anymore. I'm not like staunchly opposed to it. I feel like, a lot of the message there is be of service, which I think is excellent.
And you are doing that.
So, and that's kind of part of that was like, I am of service all the time. Like that's kind of, I'm at someone's service pretty much all the time. And so, that was kind of like, I don't know that I need to add that in order to do this. And I feel like with my therapy and my medication and the connections I'm making with people in real life or online have been really, really useful. And there is a group, and we talked about that a little bit before, is called Recovers and Discoverers, which is an alcohol-free Facebook group that you can join. And, people talk about different ideas about different types of non-alcoholic drinks you can have. And just also just living life without it, and like what a positive impact that has on a lot of people.
Well, so as we've mentioned, you are a mom of 4, and children bring with it inevitable challenges. I've spoken on here before where I've inherited a child, and it's like, whoa, okay, hello, welcome to the party. So you are doing this, substance free, and I'm wondering, do you talk to your kid? Are they of an age where you can talk to them about your journey? And then, like, how do you deal with all of the trials and tribulations that motherhood brings without resorting to having a glass of wine at the end of the day? Please tell me.
Yeah, and I think for moms, there's definitely like a culture of like, I just got to get through the day so I can get to my wine and, all of that stuff. And I don't have any judgment about that, because people have to do what they have to do. But yes, life is crazy. And I think for me, it's been really important to develop some practices for myself and tools to get through moments that are just too much. There are just times where I have to just get some quiet. I'm an introvert too, and so that's part of it. Is it's like they're just
I liked you.
Once there's too much noise, it's like I can't function anymore. And in the past, that meant, okay, I'm gonna go drink because that's gonna like turn off everything. But what I realized was it didn't. And honestly, like it would just kind of inflame everything. And so it was it just didn't work for me. So, and we do have conversations about alcohol. My daughter, who's 9, she'll be 10 soon. She is one of these kids who has decided, like, for whatever reason, and she hasn't heard horror stories or anything like that, but she's very much like, I'm never going to smoke. I'm never going to drink.
Oh, yeah.
We recently talked about sex. I'm never going to have sex. I mean, it's just like, she's never going to do anything. I'm like, okay, yep. And then I'll be here when you do, and we'll talk about what that's like, you know? So, and we're very open with her, at least I am. Her dad may be less so, but we're very open with her about just the things that we go through and how we're feeling. And we talk a lot about it's okay to be mad and sad and all these different feelings. It's okay. We like let them have their feelings because that is
I actually
so
wrote
important.
that down from when we had kind of our pre-talk that you're big into feeling your feelings.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm not because it's horrible.
Well,
and
no,
hard.
it's a nightmare.
Right. It's a nightmare. But I mean, in terms of what I'm hoping for them as they grow up is that if they can practice that, it's only going to get easier once they become an adult, because I didn't practice that until I was an adult. Right. And then I had to figure out what that even looks like, because when I was a kid, it was, you don't get to have feelings, and you don't get to, especially the hard ones.
Yeah.
We don't want to do anything with the hard ones, so they're going to stuff away, but they don't really stuff away. They come out in all various ways. But so we're big on, like, if someone's having a meltdown, that's okay. Have your meltdown. We'll talk about it when you're done. We don't try and stop the feelings, because that's not gonna end up well, in my opinion. So,
But you've gotten to this point over time, because that was not like learned behavior for you. You've had to learn it as an adult. So do you take some of that when you're working with some of your clients and kind of help them sort of emote and really get to the bottom of what it is that they're looking to do and represent?
Yeah, I think that's a big part of it. I think being authentic and being vulnerable is about letting those feelings out, no matter how they are, and being honest with yourself about where you're at with whatever it is that you are trying to do or think about. So, it all ties together. Like everything, is kind of one big thing, right? One big connection or whatever. So
if people want to find you and reach out to you because either something that you said resonated with them, or they want to find out more about Logic Baby, or they want to find out, how they can hire you. Yeah, I know. Where would they do that? How would they do that?
So I have, LinkedIn's great. So just Kristin Tippit.
I will take your word for it.
We'll talk about that later.
That's fine. But Kristin Tippit on
Kristin Tippit,
LinkedIn.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then, I have a sort of a blog that's called Mom Life is Hard, Let's Run. All one phrase.
Like run from motherhood, or just run?
That I think is a really good thing. It was supposed to start as like a running sort of club thing that I was trying to do.
Got it.
And
okay.
so that's my handle on Instagram is Mom Life is Hard, Let's Run. But now it's more just about, I just try and show up and talk about what it's like to be a mom and have neurodiverse kids and the things that I've dealt with myself from the way that I grew up. And so.
All right. So LinkedIn and your blog, is it a blog? Did I say that?
Yeah.
Right?
It's an Instagram page, but I mostly just like blog on it.
Got it. Okay. You got I don't know. I'm like so old, it seems. I'm not that old, but like I feel like I don't even know what I'm talking about half the time. So, but I really appreciate you coming. And I'm so glad that we were connected. If you're interested in learning more about Kristin, please check her out on LinkedIn or on her Instagram blog. And if you are interested in learning more about the Preventable podcast, please consider rating, reviewing, and subscribing. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us at The Preventable, brought to you ad-free by Prevent+Ed. Prevent+Ed works to reduce or prevent the harms of alcohol and other drug use through education, intervention, and advocacy. Please visit their website at prevented.org. Like what you heard? Rate, review, and subscribe to stay up to date with what we are serving on The Preventable.